Terrible tragedy has befallen the people of Minnesota, especially the family and friends of Philando Castile, and I express on behalf of all decent-minded Minnesotans, which is just about everyone, our deepest condolences, our shock and our horror at what transpired last night. All the facts aren't known, but from evidence that's been presented, the video that was taken, nobody should be shot and killed in Minnesota for a traffic tail light being out of function. Nobody should be shot and killed while they're seated still in their car without a very, very different kind of response. So I'm heartbroken for Minnesota because I've heard in the last few hours from very distinguished African American men and women who have recounted to me how they've been pulled over, singled out, and treated very differently because of their race from how white Minnesotans expect to be covered. Would this have happened if those passengers, the driver and the passenger, were white? I don't think it would have. So I'm forced to confront, and I think all of us in Minnesota are forced to confront, that this kind of racism exists, and that it's incumbent upon all of us to vow that we're going to do whatever we can to see that it doesn't happen, it doesn't continue to happen. I met with I talked with the White House Chief of Staff, Dennis McDonough. I just finished talking with Special Assistant Valerie Jarrett, who called to express the President's personal concern and see if they could do to help. I've talked with the Assistant Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, Vinita Gupta, on 3 occasions. I've talked about their involvement. Their role is not to be the primary conductor of the investigation. That will reside with the BCA, but they will be closely monitoring and providing whatever assistance is desired and necessary. The BCA under Commissioner Dolman is following through with the greatest sense of urgency, time urgency, to pursue this and conduct a complete and thorough investigation, turn that investigation over to the Ramsey County attorney, who will make his decisions accordingly. I've talked with the Senator Franken, Senator Klobuchar, Representative McCollum, Representative Ellison, 5 of us, Lieutenant Governor, 6 of us had a conference call just a short while ago. We're drafting a letter that we'll sign jointly and that will go to the Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, asking for this investigation or participation on behalf of the Department of Justice and the federal government in this matter. I can't say how seriously I take this. I can't say how shocked I am and how deeply, deeply offended that this would occur in Minnesota to somebody who got pulled over for a taillight being out of order, and how totally unacceptable it is by all the standards and values that I hold dear and that I treasure about this state, that such a terrible incident could occur and did occur, and this life is irrevocably taken away. So when I met with some of the people who are gathered outside the governor's residence earlier today, they said that they wanted justice, and I will vow that they will receive justice. And I don't know what course that takes. That will depend upon all the facts and circumstances, but that justice will be served. Justice must be served in this instance if we're going to have a chance to repair the terrible damage that's been done to the relationships we all have with men and women of other races and creeds. And I will do everything I can to see that it comes about. Commissioner, you want to add anything? Commissioner? No? So on to questions.
Governor, your statement today seems much stronger than it was during Jamar Clark. Can you outline what you see kind of in the framework of what we see in the video? What is so outraged today that we did not hear during Jamar Clark? Today, you were saying that you believe there's a racial component to this. I did not hear you say that with Jamar Clark. What makes this case different? Is it just the video?
Well, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go back into that. But I'll just say what I saw in the video. The video was, I told woman Diamond just how extraordinary I thought her poise and presence was to both make that recording, the way she responded to the police in that situation. And I mean that presented a very. It didn't show obviously the incident itself occurring, the shooting of the weapon, but it showed the immediate aftermath of that. And then she recounted in the press that we had this morning at the in front of the residents that, that Philando was not given first aid. Nobody attended to his condition as they were attending to the condition of the police officer who did the shooting. She was handcuffed and taken to police station with her four-year-old daughter. I mean, it's just the stark treatment. I find absolutely appalling at all levels.
Governor, do you agree with President Obama? He issued a statement today saying that he believes that this is not an isolated act, but rather part of a systemic problem plaguing law enforcement. I mean, your statement today seems to suggest that you also somewhat agree with them. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that statement and whether you would agree that there are similar problems here in Minnesota.
Well, I think we've had these incidents now that prove that these problems do exist in Minnesota. The vast majority of our law enforcement officers, of all colors, races, creeds, religions, are dedicated, and they confront difficult situations every day and every night, and they conduct themselves lawfully and honorably. And one terrible misjudgment or failure of proper action, whatever it turned out to be, could not be allowed to cast aspersions on every other law enforcement officer in Minnesota. But in this instance, again, I don't have all the facts and evidence. I'm not passing a final judgment, but there's every indication in this case that the police response was way in excess of what the situation called for. Certainly being pulled over with a traffic light defect, and not having even exited the vehicle, much less taken any action that could be visibly seen or construed as being an act by the victim of aggression against the police officer, and then to be shot in the car with 4 or 5 bullets is just it's just beyond the pale. It's just so far beyond the pale.
But again, I mean, you don't believe that it's part of a more systemic problem?
I think it's more than an isolated instance, and that's why, as I said before, there are others who have shared with me just even this today. So one of the ways in which we we can't ever remedy the situation, but try to move forward with it would be to look at the training, the community policing. That's President Obama in his statement referenced his task force he established on community policing a couple of years ago and their recommendations. I asked for a copy to review those recommendations, and looked very seriously at convening a similar task force or group to look at those issues on behalf of Minnesota. But that's premature. That's not why I'm here today. We don't have solutions today. We have a recognition of a serious problem and a terrible tragedy, and a resolve that I want everyone to know that we are going to pursue this matter all the way to conclusion.
Governor, can you elaborate on the BCA's process, what has been done so far, and what else needs to be done?
I'll let Commissioner Doman, who's in charge of the BCA.
For the record, my name is Mona Dolman, the Commissioner of Public Safety, and I oversee the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Last night, the St. Anthony Police Chief, interim police chief, contacted the BCA and requested that the BCA conduct the independent investigation of this officer-involved shooting. Agents were sent out to the scene to begin the investigation, and they have been working through the night and through the day to collect all of the evidence, to do a thorough and expedited investigation. I've talked with the superintendent several times today, and we have had discussions with the lieutenant governor and with the governor regarding the need for expediency but thoroughness in collecting all of the evidence, putting that evidence together, and then presenting that to the county attorney for review.
Can you elaborate evidence that include any, what sort of camera footage, if possible, interviews, to elaborate on what sort of things your officers are collecting?
Because it's an ongoing and active investigation, that is not public information, and I can't disclose that at this time. And I don't have all the facts. I have not been to the scene. I have not reviewed any of the evidence.
Commissioner, could you confirm whether he did in fact have a permit, Mr. Castile, whether he did in fact have a permit to carry, as the family has said? And if you can't confirm that, because it's part of the ongoing investigation, can you explain, because a lot of that information is not public for various reasons, but with the officers on their MDT, on their mobile display terminal, would they have known whether the driver of that vehicle, whether he had a permit to carry?
What I can say is that the information that the sheriff's offices hold across the state of Minnesota, because they are the ones that issue the permits to carry, and then we have that information at the BCA, that information is not public information under the data privacy laws, and it is part of the investigation. I do not know what the officers knew when he stopped the vehicle. I don't know what he knew at that time, and it also would depend on who the vehicle registered to and who the driver was. So I
And have they
don't.
been interviewed yet? Have the officers on scene there last night been at least preliminarily interviewed at this point?
It is my understanding that the agents were working on that, to do that this afternoon. I don't know if that interview or those interviews have been conducted at this point in time.
Can you also
Commissioner,
speak
what
to
has been
your-
done since the Clark shooting to prevent situations like this? And you already have plans in place to, for instance, more education or whatever you might do? Can you go into that a little bit?
I can say that from speaking with police chiefs and sheriffs across the state of Minnesota, that they all take these situations very seriously, and training in their agencies is a priority for them. I can't speak specifically to what each individual agency has done or not, but there probably isn't a chief law enforcement officer in the state that isn't paying attention and considering policy or writing policy, drafting policy to make sure that their officers are properly trained and properly responding and properly building relationships and solidifying relationships in the communities that they serve.
Can you speak to where the gun was recovered from the scene, where Mr. Castile's gun was found?
That is all part of the active investigation. I cannot.
Can you speak to how this being broadcast Facebook Live, how that affects your investigation and even just your reaction to that, knowing you'll get called in?
Well, I think public opinion is different because the public has seen that video. And I would say that it is part of the investigation and part of the evidence that will be collected by the Bureau. And the agents will review all of the information that they have, document it all, and then it will be presented to the county attorney, John Choi's office, for review without recommendation from the BCA. So our job is to collect the evidence and present it for review by the prosecuting attorney.
Commissioner, can you confirm what the original purpose of the traffic stop was? Obviously, Castile's girlfriend had said in that video that it was for a busted taillight. Is that the case?
I cannot confirm that.
Governor, this video obviously does not show the moment that Mr. Castile is reaching for his wallet or anything that happens before the shooting. We obviously don't know that. I can hear the police, you said there was no known act of aggression by Mr. Castile. That was your comment a few minutes ago. I can hear the police union